What is virtue? What are the constituent parts of virtue? What is the spirit of virtue? And what is the manifestation of virtue? And out of the different manifestations, which one is more important? Which comes first? Which comes second? Which comes next? So actually, as I told you, a full human character has been portrayed here. And as we see, the first thing is وَلَكِنَّ الْبِرَّ مَنْ آمَنَ. Here a word is understood, mahzoof, it is implied. وَلَكِنَّ الْبِرَّ بِرُّ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَالْمَلَائِكَةِ وَالْكِتَابِ وَالنَّبِيِّينَ. The real virtue, the real piety, the real righteousness is the righteousness of a person who has faith, who has belief in Allah, man amana billahi wal yawmil akhir, and the last day, that is the day of judgment, wal malaikati, and the angels, wal kitabe, and the book, wal nabiyyin, and the prophets. Now we have to think, what is the relationship between piety, between virtue and iman? That is something very important. Why? Because you know, every action, at least every human action, or at least every action of a normal and healthy human being has two aspects. The external manifestation of that action or deed, and the motivation behind it. Why he is doing it? There is some purpose, there is some motivation, there is something which is aimed at. So actually these two things are essential to every act and deed. And unless the intentions are pure, unless the motivation is correct, unless the purpose is correct, and as we call it in Arabic, unless the niyyah is okay, the action, although it might appear to be a very high act of charity, a very big good, a very decent work, but if the intentions are wrong, if the motivation is wrong, if the purpose is wrong, if the niyyah, this is the religious term, if that is wrong, it might appear to be a very good action, but it is evil of the highest order. As I quoted you the hadith, you know, Man salla yurai faqad ashraka, wa man sama yurai faqad ashraka, wa man tasaddaqa yurai faqad ashraka. Aw kama qala sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Whosoever is praying to show off to the people his piety, that he is a very, you know, he loves Allah very much, and he prays, and he establishes salah, he needs admiration from the people, he has committed shirk, the worst, you know, sin in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Unpardonable. Inna Allah la yaghfiru yushraka bih wa yaghfiru ma duna dhalika liman yasha. And here the words have been used, qad ashraka, absolute, surely. He has committed shirk if he has prayed only to show off. And whosoever is giving alms to the others, charity, feeding the poor, but the purpose is something else, not to please Allah, not to get the reward in the hereafter, but to have the praise from the people, to have a good name here. So actually he has committed shirk. وَمَنْ صَامَ يُرَائِ فَقَدْ أَشْرَكَ. Whosoever kept a fast, but only to show off his piety, he has committed a shirk. So that is the importance of niyyah in Islam. Now motivation actually is controlled and decided by the Weltanschauung or the philosophy or the ideology of a person. Now what is iman? Iman billah and iman bil akhirah. They give the correct motivation for some good action and good deed and some virtuous act. That is, every action which appears to be virtuous, good action, is really good and virtuous if it has been committed only to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and only to have reward in the hereafter. If you want some reward here, now it's a trading, it's business, it's investment, it's not the bill that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would like and accept from you. Only the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And reward, if you need, only the reward in the hereafter. If such is the purification of the intentions and the motivation, then it is really a good action. It is real birr in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if it is the case is to the contrary, then it might be a very big good act, but it has no weight in the balance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. That is why, you know, we have a very famous hadith, and it has been reported by Hazrat Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And this hadith is so important, and it is held in such a high esteem by the muhaddiseen. All the people mostly who have collected ahadith in books, they start with this hadith. First of all, this hadith. Hazrat Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu says that the Prophet said, innamal a'malu bin niyat, wa innama likulli imri'in ma nawa. Faman kanat hijratuhu li dunya yusibuha, aw imra'atin yankihuha, fa hijratuhu ila ma hajara ilayh. Wa man kanat hijratuhu lillahi wa rasulihi, fa hijratuhu lillahi wa rasulihi. Muttafaqun alayh. It has been accepted by both Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim rahimahumullah. So most authentic hadith, and the reporter Hazrat Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And this hadith, what is it saying? The basis and acceptability of any good deed, good action is on the basis of the niyyah, the purpose, the intention, the motivation. Innamal a'malu bin niyat. Wa innama likulli imrin ma nawa. And everybody would get from his action and act and deed what he had intended, what the intention he had. He will get only that thing. And now there is an example. فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. What was hijrah? Hijrah was leaving your hearth and home at Makkah and migrating to Medina. This is an act which is visible. Some Amr, some Bakr, some other person, they are all leaving their homes here and migrating to Medina. They are making hijrah. For us people, for human beings, we shall call, he is also a muhajir, he is also a muhajir. He has also come over from Makkah to Medina. He has also come from Makkah to Medina. But actually in the heart of his hearts, what was the real motivation? Why has he migrated? Whether he has migrated only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and only due to the command or order of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, then with the, on the day of judgment, his hijrah will be counted in the account of Allah and Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Man kanat hijratuhu ila Allahi wa rasulihi fa hijratuhu ila Allahi wa rasulihi. وَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ لِلدُّنْيَا يُصِيبُهَا. And whosoever had migrated for some worldly gains. To give you an example, possible example, maybe somebody was a worker there, Muslim, he might be a carpenter, and his customers were the Muslims. Now the customers have gone, and the kuffar are not giving him any job. Now he thinks that, now I can't have any livelihood here, I must also go. So the real motivation of his going to Medina is not the commandment of Allah or his messenger, but his economic need. He wants business because he has lost his customers here, so he has to go there. So if that is the real cause, then he is migrating for the sake of this world, not for Allah, not for Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The second example, maybe he wanted to marry a woman, a Muslim woman, and now that woman, Muslim woman, has migrated. Now he is also going to Medina, but with the sole aim of marrying that woman whom he loves. So now his hijrah will be counted for that woman, not for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now these are the things which we cannot know. Only Allah knows. Allah knows the intentions and the real purposes and the real motives of each and every action that we are performing. But we must know that the principle is that the actions and deeds have to be judged on the day of judgment on the basis of the intentions, not on the basis of what they look like, what they appear. They might appear to be acts of very high, level of good and piety and righteousness and charity, but maybe that in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they amount to shirk. There's a very famous hadith, another hadith. The Prophet told sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that on the day of judgment, first of all, 3 persons will be brought to the book for accountability. One was killed while fighting for the cause of Allah, apparently, and he was taken to be a martyr, a shaheed. The other was a very rich man, and he used to give alms and charities and feed the needy and so on. And the third one was a very big alim, and he, spread the knowledge and wisdom of deen to so many people. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will count to them, I gave you this thing, I gave you health, bodily strength. What did you do for me? And that martyr would say, oh Allah, qataltu fi sabilik. I went to war for your cause, to please you, and I laid down my life. And Allah would reply, kazabta, you are telling a lie. You are fighting so that people should say he's a very brave person. He is a very courageous person. That was your intention. And that has been said. So you have already got what you intended. There is nothing here for you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will then order the angels who will drag him on his mouth, and they will throw him in the fire of hell. The same thing would happen to the person, who was rich and who was distributing alms and charity to the needy. The same would be the fate. You did this. You wanted that there should be praise for you. He is a very merciful person. So actually, he will also be thrown in the fire of hell. And the same to the alim. You did this so that it should be said that he's a very big alim, he's a very knowledgeable person. What about his knowledge? And it has been said. What you needed, what you wanted, what you aimed, that has been given to you already. Now here's nothing for you. So actually this is the very fundamental thing, that motivations are most important, and motivations can be rectified only through iman. If you have deep iman, living iman, burning iman, pulsating iman, a conviction, then all your intentions would be only to do some good deed, only to please Allah, only to have a reward in the hereafter. But if you are earning money for your livelihood, well, this is also halal. You are doing through halal means. But you don't call it a charity. You don't call it a virtue. You are providing for your family. That is halal. You will be rewarded for that also. But you know, virtue and birr is something else. Birr and virtue will be only that act, that deed of a person, what he is performing and committing only to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to have reward only in the hereafter.